The town of Ashwood lay shrouded in an eternal gloom, its residents trapped in a perpetual twilight. It was a place where the skies seemed to weep tears of soot, and the trees creaked with an otherworldly sigh. Here, the very fabric of reality appeared to be unraveling, thread by thread. In the heart of this forsaken town, there existed a peculiar institution, the Ashwood Home for Wayward Youth. Its crumbling facade loomed like a specter, a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked within. It was a place where the lost and the broken were sent to be forgotten, where the whispers of the damned echoed through the corridors. Among the home's residents was a boy named Eli. His eyes were sunken, his skin a cadaverous pale, as if the life had been drained from his very marrow. His presence was a mere whisper, a faint rumor of a life once lived. He moved with an unnatural silence, his feet seeming to glide across the floorboards as if propelled by some unseen force. Eli's story was one of tragedy, of a life cut short before it had truly begun. They said he died in the home, his small body discovered cold and stiff in his bed. But death, it seemed, was not the end for Eli. He lingered, a revenant trapped in the realm of the living, doomed to relive the memories of his own demise. The other children at the home shunned Eli, sensing the unsettling aura that clung to him like a shroud. They would whisper to each other in hushed tones, their eyes darting towards him with a mixture of fear and fascination. The staff, too, seemed wary of Eli, their words soft and gentle when speaking to him, as if afraid to startle the fragile calm that surrounded him. At night, when the darkness outside seemed to seep into the home's very walls, Eli would slip out of his bed and wander the empty corridors. His footsteps echoed through the deserted halls, a slow and mournful cadence that seemed to draw the shadows closer. His eyes, those empty, haunting pools, would fix upon some unseen point, as if beholding a horror that lurked just beyond the edge of perception. It was on one such night, as the moon hung low in the sky like a lantern of cold, dead silver, that Eli stumbled upon a door hidden behind a tattered tapestry. The door, adorned with rusted hinges and a heavy iron knocker in the shape of a snarling lion's head, seemed to have been waiting for him, its surface etched with ancient symbols that appeared to shimmer in the faint moonlight. The air around the door vibrated with an otherworldly energy, as if the very fabric of reality was stretched taut, ready to snap. Eli's small hand reached out, his fingers closing around the lion's head knocker as if drawn by some unseen force. The metal was cold to the touch, its surface etched with symbols that seemed to whisper secrets in a language only he could understand. The door, as if sensing his presence, creaked open with a dreadful slowness, revealing a staircase that plunged into darkness. The air that wafted out was heavy with the scent of decay and forgotten memories. Eli's eyes, already sunken, seemed to sink deeper into their sockets as he gazed down into the abyss. His breath caught in his throat, a faint hissing sound that echoed through the corridor. Without hesitation, Eli began his descent, his small feet pattering against the stone stairs like a death knell. The darkness closed around him, a living entity that enveloped him in its cold, damp embrace. The air grew colder, the shadows twisting around him like grasping fingers. At the bottom of the staircase, a door of rusted iron bars waited, adorned with symbols that pulsed with a malevolent energy. Beyond the door, a faint light flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The silence was oppressive, a physical presence that pressed upon Eli's small chest. He pushed the door open, and a warm, golden light spilled out, bathing him in its radiance. The air was heavy with the scent of old books and dust, and the whisper of forgotten secrets seemed to rustle through the pages of ancient tomes that lined the walls. In the center of the room, a figure waited, shrouded in shadows. The figure, draped in tattered velvet, its face hidden behind a hood of darkest black, seemed to be waiting for Eli. The air around it vibrated with an otherworldly power, as if the very fabric of reality was warped by its presence. Eli's eyes, fixed upon the figure, seemed to draw closer, as if pulled by an unseen force. The silence between them was a living thing, a palpable entity that pulsed with an evil energy. The figure, its presence both captivating and terrifying, raised a hand, its fingers long and skeletal, adorned with rings that seemed to burn with an inner fire. Eli's gaze was drawn to the rings, his eyes transfixed by the malevolent power that radiated from them. In that moment, the whispering in the corridors, the creaking of the wooden floorboards, and the sighing of the wind through the broken windows all ceased. The only sound was the heavy, labored breathing of the figure, its chest rising and falling with a rhythmic slowness. With an agonizing slowness, the figure began to speak, its voice like the rustling of dry leaves, the creaking of ancient trees, and the whispers of the damned. The words, each one a stinging blow, fell upon Eli like a cold, dark rain. "Welcome, little Eli," the figure whispered, its voice like a funeral dirge. "I have waited for you to unlock the door, to unleash the darkness that lurks within. You, who have died and yet still walk. You who have seen the shadows that lurk beyond the veil." The figure's words dripped with an unholy allure, drawing Eli closer, as if mesmerized by the promise of forbidden secrets. The air seemed to vibrate with an ominous energy, as if the very fabric of reality was being warped by the figure's presence. "You have seen the shadows, Eli," the figure whispered, its voice weaving a spell of darkness and despair. "You have glimpsed the realms that lie beyond the mundane, beyond the veil of life and death. You have seen the truth, Eli, the truth that the living are not meant to know." Eli's eyes, vacant and empty, seemed to drink in the figure's words, his small body swaying to the rhythm of the figure's voice. The darkness around them grew thicker, like a living entity that fed on their terror. "I will show you more, little Eli," the figure whispered, its voice dripping with malevolent intent. "I will show you the secrets of the beyond, the mysteries that lie beyond the grave. You will see the faces of the forgotten, the whispers of the damned, and the horrors that lurk in the shadows." The figure's hand, long and bony, reached out, its fingers closing around Eli's wrist like a skeletal vice. Eli's eyes, empty and unseeing, gazed up at the figure, as if beholding some ancient, unspeakable horror. Together, they glided across the room, their footsteps echoing through the stillness, as if drawn by some unseen force towards a realm of madness and despair. The darkness closed in around them, a living, breathing entity that pulsed with an evil energy. As they moved, the shadows seemed to coalesce around them, taking on a life of their own. The air grew colder, the darkness thickening into a palpable mist that swirled around their ankles. Eli's eyes, vacant and unseeing, remained fixed on the figure, his small body drawn into the darkness like a moth to a flame. The room around them began to distort, the walls seeming to melt like wax in a furnace. The shelves, once lined with ancient tomes, now appeared to writhe and twist, like serpents awakened from a centuries-long slumber. The books themselves, bound in cracked leather and adorned with strange symbols, seemed to whisper secrets to the figure, their pages rustling with an otherworldly energy. The figure, its hood thrown back, revealed a face that was not a face, a visage that defied mortal comprehension. Its eyes burned with an eternal fire, a flame that had burned for centuries, feeding on the terror of the damned. Its skin, like parchment stretched taut over bone, seemed to glow with a faint, malevolent light. Eli, entranced by the figure's gaze, felt his own consciousness unraveling, his memories unwinding like a thread pulled from a frayed tapestry. His thoughts, once bound by the fragile cords of sanity, began to unravel, freeing the horrors that lurked within. The darkness, sensing its moment, closed in, a living, breathing entity that wrapped itself around Eli like a shroud. The figure, its voice a whispered promise of damnation, leaned in, its cold, skeletal lips inches from Eli's ear,